Welcome back to r/neighbors from hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors. And if you're new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community. And without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one is titled "Parked in 4 handicap spaces because he was just going in for a second, ended up there for 4 hours." When I was in college, I drove a POS car, as most of my friends did. I was meeting a buddy for a movie at the mall and noticed a brand new Corvette parked in 4 handicapped spaces without a hint of handicap plate or placard. This particular mall has a plethora of handicapped spots, so I understand the lure of dozens of unoccupied spots right at the entrance, but still, some things you shouldn't do. I am particularly sensitive to this issue as my dad is a paraplegic and we often see this privilege used by people that don't need it, but this particular infringement was too much for me to handle. With the help of my buddy, I parked my car perpendicularly in front of the Corvette, as since he took up 4 spaces, this was possible without infringing on the lane of traffic. His front bumper, with the hand-gestured guidance of my friend, was less than an inch from the side of my car. My friend did the same behind him. Once we arranged our cars, we went into the mall, saw a movie, got some lunch and did a little window shopping. When we went back out to our cars, there was a policeman and a tow truck waiting. The man, perfectly able-bodied, started yelling at us saying he was going to kick our butt, etc., but the cop told him to calm down or he would be arrested. The cop explained that we were all being ticketed for this fiasco. My friend and I were getting a ticket each for parking in a handicap spot. The Corvette driver was getting a ticket and his car was being towed. The Corvette driver was beside himself and said he would just pay the tow truck driver there to avoid impound fees or whatever. The cop patted me on the shoulder as he handed me the ticket and told me to move my car. I took the slip of paper that the cop gave me as I got in my car. It was a warning, not a ticket. And in the comments section the cop wrote, "I couldn't let him think you were getting off scot-free. Next time, call the cops." Even as a broke college kid, I was willing to risk the fine for my buddy as well, just because I cannot stand to see people conduct themselves with such an air of entitlement. And guys, have you ever witnessed any people in real life parking on handicapped spots even though they are not supposed to? What have you done in these situations? Have you intervened? Let us know in the comments. And the next one is titled "You park on my grass and tell me it is not your car?" My house and yard is on 2 streets, front door on one, driveway and backyard on another. You park your car, walk around the fence and let yourself into my backyard through the gate. We have it numbered and everything, so it doesn't confuse anyone. Enter my new neighbor who is renting a place nearby. I come home one day with groceries and find a car parked on my front lawn, damaging my grass. He is straddling the sidewalk with his mirror right up against a numbered gate. Neighbor is out smoking on his porch. I ask him to please move his car. He tells me it is not his and he doesn't know whose it is. This was obviously a lie. I have seen this car before. It is one of his buddies and I don't know why he seemed to think I wouldn't recognize the car. I was so angry that I couldn't get home that I hip-checked the car and set off his car alarm. Turns out his buddy was inside and came running out to shut off the alarm. I told him the car had to move or I would have it moved for him. Edit, they went inside and about 20 minutes later they both left in the car that was parked in the driveway, leaving the one blocking my gate there. I called my local garage and had it towed. Never saw that car again in my neighborhood. And guys, if you enjoy the revenge stories about awful neighbors and people parking in handicapped spots that shouldn't really park there, then please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments if you want to support my channel. Thank you so much in advance. And the next one is titled, "Oh, you cannot get your car alarm to stop going off at all hours of the night? Let me help you." I live in a duplex that is surrounded by some apartments and it is all owned by the same landlord. It is hard to explain the setup, but basically we all have assigned parking spots and there are some visitor spots set up for everyone in the back lot. My side of the duplex has 4 spots for us directly outside of our front door, separate from the rest of the parking. Enter douchebag. Now this one person was a regular visitor of one of my back neighbors. She knew the parking setup, but she seemed to always park in our assigned spots. I left plenty of strongly worded notes that seemed to go unread. But I rolled my eyes and let it slide. Our landlord was pretty passive and I knew he would never have them towed. I was frustrated, but it was fine. People steal spots here all the time, but one week everything changed. The girl's car started acting up. The car alarm would go off at random, at any time of the day or night, for 20 minutes at a time. She apologized once, saying that it only happened when she locked her car electronically, but if she locked it manually it was fine. I thought that meant that she would lock it manually. Of course not. For the next week I was annoyed, awakened and infuriated by her car alarm, her car that was parked outside my bedroom window. Now on to the revenge. So one night we took the matter into our own hands. Her car had been at our house for 2 days straight. It was finally enough. Her car was unlocked, so we opened the door, popped the hood and disconnected her battery. Car dead? No car alarm. Victory. Aftermath. Of course she is car illiterate. She comes to our door and asks if we know anything about cars. We say sure, we'll take a look. We pop open the hood. Gosh, I really don't know what is the matter. Looks like you will have to get it towed. The girl had to spend $100 to get that hunk of junk hauled out of our parking lot. I am sure she spent even more on a mechanic to look and see our simple sabotage. Satisfying conclusion, that also meant that by forcing her to see a mechanic, they fixed her alarm. She started parking in the appropriate spots, probably because she realized that we were the saboteurs, and her alarm never went off again. The end. And the next one is titled The Litigating Neighbors. My family has had a run of bad luck this year. We had a saying last year, it will be better in 2015. Well, early in the winter we were greeted with a call of, "Did you know the marina's on fire?" No, we did not know that. It is our marina, by the way. My mother was in denial. We had gotten this call a few times because the fire trucks fill up by the marina sometimes, and she figured it was just that. I did not want to counter that the ice was over 10 inches thick at least. I just hoped it was a small fire, but it was not. All that was left of the building was a tiny metal frame on one end. For a bit it seemed like we could twist this fire into a good thing. That building was crap and we had never been able to afford to bulldoze it. It happened in winter when we never make any money anyway. If there was a time for a fire to happen, winter was a good time. The insurance called it a total loss, so anything we salvaged did not count against us for payout, but we were able to salvage things. A brief rumor started that it was arson started by us. I might do a post on who started that rumor and why it died so quickly, but it was going good. Then the lawsuit came in. We'd had problems with these people before, but a lawsuit felt a bit over the level of the nastiness they were capable of usually. They were suing us for harassment over the other issues, destruction of family heirlooms, it was a tree, a baby tree, trespassing on property legally declared as ours, and other property-related stuff. We countersued on the not ridiculous stuff. So, an important thing to know about this area is that the property lines are effed. When my family got the marina, we were sorting out the property lines with 4 different entities. The parcels were in bizarre places. One was in the middle of the building, surrounded by another parcel. The reason for this is because we are on the edge of 2 counties who both tried to determine the property lines, and they did so by markers that don't exist anymore or are now underwater as the lake levels rise every year. Markers literally in the original property lines are the old oak tree. We did find that one. It is a stump. They were the only people who refused to settle. We had to call in surveyors. Our surveyor gave us 10 feet of land. They did not like that, so they called in a surveyor. Their surveyor gave us another 30 feet. Oh yes, we enjoyed that, but on their lawsuit they tried to go back to the original agreement before any of the surveyors. They had less than a stable case. We took photos of the property line from the water and lined it up with old photos. We got a new survey done after we heard that they had tried to trick the system by giving a surveyor the property line and getting him to sign off of it. We used the same company they did. The surveyor gave us even more property. They are not pleasant people to deal with. We had kept this really quiet, taken the high road, however, they shot themselves in the foot. As expected, they put up orange plastic fence around their supposed property line, which their lawyer told them to take down, and my uncle did rip down in front of them, but it was too late. One of the gossips of the lake asked us what was going on, and we were kinda, don't spread this around, but... Knowing that he would spread it around, he did. The whole lake knew that these people were suing us, the people who just had a catastrophic fire take our livelihoods. Oh, did it get nasty. We had people pouring in, sneaking gossip to help our case. They had a history of doing this. We were told to get a look at this legal document, and that. People with motorcycles offered to drive by multiple times at inconvenient hours, which we explicitly condemned while looking pleased with the idea. Because these people were just being so stupid, I was expecting them to be stubborn through arbitration and shoot themselves in the foot during the court case, and thus, according to state law, pay all our legal fees. They did actually give in at arbitration, we got the property, they brought in 3 lawyers from a nearby large city, we had 1 local lawyer. They then fenced in their tiny, hard-lost property with their lawyer watching the whole time. Someone dropped by to let us know their fence was not up to county codes. If we report it, they would have to rebuild it. We have been a little busy, but I think summer, in the middle of their busy season, is the best time to do that anyway. Edit, some things, we are not entirely sure what prompted the neighbors to sue us, but the biggest reason we think is that they knew we were struggling financially and that we just got a whole bunch of money plopped into our lap after the fire. After all, they were not asking for just land, but money from us too. The fire was probably caused by mice nesting in some electrical wires. We know what wall it started on, and there were some freezers on that wall that kicked on and off all the time. Only thing flammable on that wall, I have pictures of the remains of the building, and those freezers are just gone. Everything in that entire area was obliterated. We are pretty well liked around the lake, and the fact that they decided to sue us after the fire was not gone unnoticed, so it is getting out, as I pointed out several times, would send the neighborhood friendly mob out if we could get spread the word in a way that did not trace back so clearly to us. Like explicitly asking the source not to spread it around. They would not have sued us without the fire, and the fire made the neighborhood's reaction more extreme. And the next one is titled, "Don't Sue, we will let you come into our property to fix your sewer line." The house I grew up in was built on the side of a hill, great views, but the geography posed some challenges for the city utilities, sewage in particular. Their solution was to put all the houses on the hill in what was called a shared line. Essentially, one big pipe ran through all of our backyards just below the houses' basements. Effluent would flow out from the houses into the shared pipe and then down the hill to the city sewer line by the bottommost house. When we moved in, we were at the highest point that it was possible to build on and still be part of that shared sewer line. But a few years later, someone bought a lot just over the crest of the hill and linked up with ours without being part of the planned community that had an HOA that took care of the sewer line, among other things. And in fact, they did so without the HOA's approval. And so for the next 2 decades, my family would be the subject of near constant harassment over the state of the sewer. Their end of the line was lower than ours by just enough that it would stop flowing and clog, often backing up into their basement bathroom and shower. They would accuse us of diverting our effluent to their line because I guess we were some kind of plumbing wizards. Now, the reason nobody built a house on that part of the hill during the original development was that the soil was unstable, something hydrology related, and sure enough, over the years that house would occasionally separate from the hill and slide down a couple of inches. But our neighbors had connections in the code enforcement agency, so the place never got condemned like it should be. They just had to shore it up and reconnect all the utilities. The thing is, the further down the house moved, the steeper the negative incline was from their sewer connection to our junction box, making the clogs and backups even worse. At one point it got so bad that their sewer barely flowed. Some days it got completely clogged. Somehow this was our fault. They spent the next year calling us every time they tried to flush a toilet and crap came out in their downstairs shower. They called a plumber who said they had to redo their part of the shared line, and to do it, they would have to bust through our 2-story masonry wall so they could get a backhoe onto our property and dig out the line. Of course we had issues with this. We said no, you will not come onto our property and tear it up with a big ass piece of construction equipment, hire human laborers or something. But instead they hired lawyers who started slinging paper around. According to them, we were in violation of state law that specifically gave an implied easement granting a homeowner access through another's property to maintain their own. So we hired lawyers of our own who said that we basically had a choice. We could win the case but pay a ton of money or just let it happen. Either way, we would be screwed. But they pointed out one important fact: that 20-year-old masonry wall was not in the greatest of shape anyway, so... A few months later we presented them with a bill for $75,000 for the rebuilding of the wall, installation of a new set of stairs, replacement of the entire wrought iron fence that had separated the two properties, resodding, replacement of ornamental plants and shrubs, and some minor repairs to our sewer, which they had borked up while relaying their pipes. I am not a general contractor, but my guess is that they could have hired pick and shovel labor to dig out that pipe and replace it with a new one for a fraction of that price, but no, they had to have a giant caterpillar tread machine do it. They balked, but then we handed them a Xerox copy of the letter that their lawyers had sent us with pursuant to paragraph blah 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 of the common code of blah blah blah, citing the next paragraph, which stated that the person using the easement was 100% responsible for any damage that might be caused. They still balked, but my parents put a lien on their property that stayed there to the day they tried to sell, at which point they had to pay up or the purchaser's creditors would not underwrite a mortgage. I think they had to pay interest too, but I am not 100% sure about that. Too long didn't read for the people who did not understand the story. Neighbors built their house to connect to our shared sewer line, house sagged down the hill, sewer broke, house filled with crap. They hired lawyers to force my dad to let them destroy our wall and backyard while repairing their sewer. We presented them with a bill for $75,000 to fix our yard. Got a brand new masonry wall essentially for free. EM calls in a noise complaint in the middle of a hurricane. Background: I live in Atlantic Canada and we were just hit by Hurricane Dorian. Not as bad as the Bahamas, they certainly have it a lot worse than us, but needless to say, power went out in our neighborhood. We have a generator however, so when the power went off we just went out and turned it on. Of course it is a little loud, but we were not going to have it running during the night. Shortly after we turned it on, we received a knock on our door. We were concerned something might have happened to our neighbor, so we opened it. M is mother, EM entitled mom, me mutant experiment 24 aka me. Mother: are you okay? EM:
I'm fine, I cannot get my baby back to sleep.
Me: the wind is kind of loud, maybe bring her to the basement. EM:
She slept through worse weather, the problem is your generator out back.
Me: oh sorry about that, we don't want to lose the dog food we have in the freezer, so we turned it on. EM:
Turn it off.
What?
Turn off your generator, you're being extremely rude.
No, it's really not that loud compared to the wind, and we have raw dog food in our freezer.
Fine.
And with that, the EM ran back to her house. We thought that would be the end of it, but of course that would be a boring story. About 4 hours later, the eye of the storm was passing over us. We used this time to go out and refill the generator. As my brother turned it off, there was another knock at the door. I thought it would be the neighbor again, but instead it was a police officer. He had received a report that we were purposely banging the walls and playing music so loud that the neighbor could hear it through walls. We live in a duplex. Of course, we explained it to the officer, the encounter with EM early through the storm, and apologized to him. He was thankfully cool and explained that even during such a hurricane, they were required to respond to even minor things. Unfortunately, by the time we resolved the issue with the officer, the eye had passed and the winds had picked up again. The main street of our side street was closed again due to the high winds and risk of flooding/waves. The officer was advised to stay on our side street, so we invited him in for some coffee and to play some cards, but not before he went to our neighbor and gave them a chewing out. We were going to offer extension cables to our neighbors to help keep their freezers and fridges running, but after that encounter with the neighbor, we decided instead to use the second line we had for our television and game console instead. Just wanted a quick update to inform everyone that today I returned home to my neighbor carrying out 3 or 4 Tupperware containers to her green bin. She just dropped them in without opening them. And ripe stars, unfortunately we have already reached the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed the content. However, if you cannot wait for more ripe content, then I suggest you head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube, where you can find more exclusive Reddit content read by me. Patreon subscriptions start at just $1 per month, and for $1 your name will show up at the end of each of my new videos. However, if you are willing to spend $3 per month, you will get access to more than 50 exclusive Reddit videos, mostly just no mother-in-law stories. However, please understand, I don't want to pressure anyone into spending money, because I am already incredibly grateful that you watch my videos every single day. Thank you so much for your daily support, it really means the world to me, and I hope to see you again tomorrow for the next video.